All right, everybody here, let's go ahead and get started. We don't have a chair at the moment. LaDonna will probably be here later. She's in a meeting, but until then, I'll help assist in running this thing. At the moment, we don't have a chair, so I guess I'll have to do it. But let's take an opportunity here. I know most of you guys all know each other, but we do have several new members. So let's just take an opportunity to introduce each other or introduce yourselves to the audience, to each other. Start with Mr. Kirkendall.
Sorry about that. Victor Kirkendall, new public member to the Bingo Advisory Committee. I'm a former chief of the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, live out in Central Texas, Waco, Texas, and excited to be here. Thank you.
Dr. Trey Penny, retired 22-year Dallas Police Sergeant, president of the National Fallen Officer Foundation, one of the new members for the public here on BAC, and looking forward to knowing you all. Thank you.
Veronica Diegas. I have a couple of bingo halls here in Austin. I am the charity lessor.
Trey Smith, member of the BAC, been in bingo since 1988, helping charities achieve their monetary goals.
Tommy Duncan, representing the distributors and VP of sales for All Saints, Texas.
Floyd Olive, representing manufacturers. I've been with Every Games in the manufacturing business for 28 years.
Jason Poland with Brazos Bingo out of Bryan, Texas. I've been in bingo since '99.
Audrey Walter, I'm new to the group. I am a conductor out of Lockhart and haven't been here for very long, only a couple years into bingo. So.
All right, thank you all very much. Let's start this meeting as we do with all the others to pledge allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag.
Flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state under God.
Okay, well, given the introductions, I don't think we need to do the roll call, although I will note that Miss Melody Green is not here, but she will be or presented on her behalf a statement in a little bit. The next item is going to be the meeting minutes from August 6th. Do we have any public comments on those? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval. Does anybody have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 6th?
I move we approve the meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes have been approved. The next item is going to be the selection of the BAC chairperson. There is no standardized procedure for this. The last time we did it, it was just done on a motion of one of the members. That's an option. We could do a secret ballot, however you guys want to do it. But we'll start with the public comment, and I know that Veronica has a statement from Melody Green regarding the selection of the chairperson, so we'll allow her to read that now.
Good morning, fellow BAC members. Since the date was changed, I am unable to attend the October 28th meeting as I will be out of the country. Since I will not be there to nominate Trace Smith for chairman, I would like to tell you why I believe he is the best candidate. Trace has worked tirelessly in the past few years as chairperson for our industry and charities. He has prepared many time-consuming reports for us, the Lottery Commission and commissioners. These are detailed reports which are vital to the bingo industry and charities. He has to arrive early and stay extra days on his own dime to deliver and explain the reports. He has personally been involved in bingo for over 30 years. I remember working with his father. I feel that his leadership and integrity is one of the main reasons the BAC has been a force for change and remains important to our industry. So I'm asking you to please vote for Trace Smith for chairperson. I look forward to our next in-person meeting in December. Thank you for your time and consideration, Melody Green. And at this time, I would like to move that we nominate Trace for the BAC chairperson again.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Yeah, we got several seconds. Do you want a discussion or you just want to vote on it?
This is about the vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, the motion passes. Trace, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm deeply honored by everybody's support. I appreciate it. And God bless Melody for doing that. I know Melody is suffering while she's in Italy this week, and she wishes she could be here, but thank y'all very much. I appreciate that. That's very humbling.
Trace, we do need you to select a backup in the event that you're not available for a meeting, someone to stand in your place as the chairman.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Melody Green for that position.
Okay, it's your
Since
choice.
she's not here to defend herself,
Take that, Melody.
miss another meeting, Melody.
All right. Well, with that, since you're the chairperson, I no longer have to drive this train, so it's all yours. On to the next item.
All righty, thank you, sir. Next item, Commission Rule 402.102I reads as follows. Who conducts the BAC meeting? The BAC must annually select presiding officer to conduct bingo meeting or to conduct meetings and general business. Presiding officer must designate a member of the BAC to conduct meetings and general business in the presiding officer's absence. We have done that. So item number 5, training on Open Meetings Act and the Public Information Act, presented by Bob Baird, TLC General Counsel, and Elizabeth Godfrey Weedig, Public Information Coordinator.
Nope.
Is light green?
Light green.
There we go.
Okay. Good morning, Commission members. My name is Elizabeth Godfrey Weidig. I am the Public Information Coordinator for this agency. I will be speaking to you regarding the Public Information Act and open records that we receive. So the Texas Public Information Act is also known as the Open Records Act. It gives the public the right to access government records information. It's presumed that all the information is open and belongs to the public. That's the transparency issue. This chapter is 552 of the Texas Government Code. Next slide, please. So what is public information? Public information is information that is collected, assembled, maintained under law or ordinance in connection with the translation of official business of a governmental agency. Public information is what we receive, information we receive, create, forms we fill out, as well as any information in the database that we collect to do our jobs. I do want to indicate that what an official state record versus transitory information. So an example. So something open record or public information like a notice of a meeting or written information about the BAC issues that you're discussing, notes taking during your meetings. That's all information that could be considered public. Text between committee members regarding BAC issues, that's phone text between, are also subject to the Public Information Act. We can go to the next slide. Who's subject to that? So this act is the law is applied statewide. So it's anyone, counties, cities, executive, legislative branches of the government, including ourselves. It's basically entities that receive public funds are subject to this Public Information Act. Next slide, please. There are only 2 requirements for a public information request. One is it must be in writing. 2, it must be for information that is in existence at the time of the request. So if I have a verbal request, it does not it doesn't make the law, we have to have it written. It doesn't enable the act that way. The act also, I explain to people why I need to do it in writing, is there's protections on both sides because of the law, how it's written. So I know exactly what a requester wants, And that way we can do our process and get that information back out to them. The information that already exists. So sometimes we get items that I want 6 months of data in the future. Well, that information doesn't exist yet. So we are deadline oriented and information. So it's going to be information from that point to the date of the request is received. So if we have data that's after, or information that's after that, it's not going to be responsive. So we also encourage record retention on those items. Next slide, please. Just some employee roles. Our agency staff are the folks that are receiving and creating this information during the course of their business. That information is subject. We also have a dedicated division liaison who is a single point of contact for me to reach out when we have a public information request and ask them to gather that data. Public information coordinator, I serve as the single point of contact for the agency. And I also coordinate gathering documents. I monitor the requests that come in, and I communicate with our requesters regarding clarifications or if they have questions about the Public Information Act, items like that. We also have our TLC attorney that oversees open records and myself. So Deanne Renstra will be our attorney that will write the Attorney General if we have items that we want to withhold from an open records request. And then Office of the Attorney General is in charge of uniformity and operation and the interpretation of the act. They're in charge of that part of the law. You can do the next slide, please. So if you get a public information request directly to you, if it's a electronic item, we ask that people are directed towards our cloud-based software into our website. It takes them to the portal where they can submit their open records request directly to us. If you get somebody who wants to make an open records request, you can send them directly my way. You can send them to the website. There are several links into the website where you can go in and make a public information request. I ask that, including staff, don't forward the request because it's not considered received until it's submitted into the portal officially. Now, if you get something in the mail, a little different. I don't think y'all will have that experience, but if you do, we want to note the date that we received it because I need to know that for deadline reasons. You're going to make sure I get a copy of it or, just make sure it comes over and I'll process it my way. If you can do the next slide, please. So important deadlines, I do ask if with the public information, it starts immediately. So we are required to provide information promptly, and it's within a reasonable amount of time. So I don't want folks to have an open records request come to them and they drop all their other duties to fulfill this request. We all still have job duties. This is as assigned and it comes in. So we have a 5-day internal deadline, which I'll send that request out to that liaison in that division. They have 5 business days to talk to their folks, get the data back to me so we can review it. And then 10 business days, which is listed in the Public Information Act, is when we were required to provide a response, not necessarily release documents, but provide a response to a requester regarding their request. We're going to give them an update, either, hey, here's your documents, we need more time, I need clarification. We're going to write the AG. So that 10-day deadline is a hard deadline. It helps us with, which is because it's a process. We have one right after another. The 15-day is if we've written the Attorney General's office regarding an open records request, we must submit the documents that we do not want released to the Attorney General's office for a ruling. So that's kind of the legal side that we have to submit those documents. Next slide, please. Continued deadlines, just very important. We do not count holidays, skeleton crew days, inclement weather days here. They don't count towards that 10 business days. So it's very important that we coordinate with when it came in, when it's due, what are our deadlines internally, and making sure we're hitting our marks on that 10th business day. Doing the next slide. And wrapping up is, the penalties. There are penalties for violating the Public Information Act. So you can have criminal and civil penalties. And that is if it's discovered that willful destruction, mutilation, and removal without permission, altering a public document. And that's a whole nother ball of wax, but just to make you aware that there are penalties in place. And that wraps up anyone have questions? My name is, I don't know if you have the screen, my name, Baktu is our bingo liaison for open records requests. So if you see an email from her reaching out to you regarding information request that comes in, she's the individual that'll reach out to you for that. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
Not really a big question, but have there been a lot of or any public information requests for the Bingo Advisory Committee lately?
There have not been any requests for the commission for y'all specifically. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes, and any request that if there's a perceived notion that someone may be seeking litigation, you're going to automatically send those to the AG, correct?
So that's something that we'll provide the exception to, and we'll write the AG if we want to withhold that document.
I think there were some former discussions that were held about possibly assigning email addresses to the committee.
Mm-hmm.
Have we heard a disposition on that? Because it may help speed things along, especially if we're out of the country or whatever, and we aren't going to be
Like a
able to
dedicated
get a 10-day
email.
response.
Yeah, I think that was an email that I sent out right after we had our new appointments. It's just it was recommended to us to set up a separate email account from your personal just to conduct Bingo Advisory Committee business. So yeah,
Right, I just was worried about the response deadlines. If we're unable to reach a committee member and get that information, because I mean, the agency doesn't have access to my BAC email address.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
yes.
Whereas if it's an agency email, they have access to just pull it automatically from their IT resources.
That could be something we work on with the website update as well. So we're looking to do some updates with the website, and we can also look at email accounts and what that would look like for the.
So for clarification, are you talking about maybe cloud? Was it crowdsourcing or clouding the email? Is that what you're talking about?
So an agency email address is accessible by the agency themselves without our involvement or our interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the email addresses that we set up ourselves, the agency would have to ask us to produce that information that's responsive,
Right.
whereas the agency can be more proactive in pulling that information themselves and providing that to meet this 10-day deadline if they had an agency email address.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Tyler, you want to weigh in on this, or LaDonna maybe?
I think he's absolutely correct about the kind of the ease with which we can access internal emails as opposed to external. I'm not sure, you'd have to talk to LaDonna and IT about the availability of creating those for you, or if you guys want them to. I mean, that's up to you all. I can understand most people don't want 20 different email addresses to manage, but it would be easier for us in the event that we got an open records request that we could just tap into your internal emails.
I have no idea.
Excellent point. I think
I have no idea how possible that is, but I can certainly.
Is that something that the commissioners would need to vote on, or is that something that the staff could do, or?
No, I just need to talk to our IT division, find out if that's possible.
Great catch. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Very good report. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next up, item
It
number.
looks like Bob is here to do his part of this item.
Oh, sorry.
He just snuck in.
I didn't see you sneak in, Bob. I'm sorry.
It's my first time at this table. Thanks. Sorry I was a little late. We have a commission meeting tomorrow, as y'all know. I was briefing one of our commissioners. Did Liz already talk about the Public Information Act? I'll start off just making a couple of comments that I don't know if Liz covered or not about the Public Information Act. It applies to records relating to public business of the BAC. And Liz may have covered this, but the points I think are really important are that there are records that are considered transient, meaning that, it's like notes you're making when you're reading a book, just something that you write down to remind you of something later on that you don't want to forget. These are records that you don't have to keep. You don't have to have, a box where you keep everything you ever write anything about the BAC in. But so that probably applies to very many of your written communications with each other and draft documents. And this only applies to records. It doesn't apply to phone conversations or anything, unless they're recorded. They happen to be recorded. So if something is transient and you don't have to keep it, and that means that you can throw it away. The documents that you are familiar with, like the BAC, the minutes of these meetings, formal recommendations that are made to the board, the reports that are statutorily required, these are maintained, these are public records, and they would be responsive to someone who is asking for records of the BAC. One caveat I want to make about these transient communications are that, and they could be notes to other people, or they could be notes just to yourself. But while there may not be a requirement to maintain these as official records, if someone were to ask for them, for like BAC member communications and notes, and you have not thrown them away, you can't then decide, oh, now I want to throw them away. I mean, if you have kept them, and if they're responsive to something that someone asks for, then you're going to need to turn them over to Liz or whoever in the bingo, probably her liaison in bingo probably will reach out to y'all for those documents. Now, I don't want to shock you too much, especially with new members, because I don't remember ever getting an open records request for any BAC documents. But we think it's important for you to be aware of it because it could happen anytime. There's always a first time. So you can't wait for a request and then throw your transient documents away. So just be mindful of your notes and records, especially if you say anything in them that you might not want the whole world to see, whether it's something bad about someone or, just that sort of thing. Just be mindful of what you write down and what you keep. And that's all I wanted to say about the Public Information Act. I'm sorry if that's duplicative of what Liz already said. I want to talk a little bit about the Open Meetings Act, mainly because it does not apply to the BAC, but there are some risk areas that you need to be aware of to make sure it stays that way, because the Attorney General has issued some opinions about advisory committees saying if they don't stay within these certain guardrails, you might suddenly find yourself a governmental body who needs to comply with the Open Meetings Act, because this is where the real decisions are being made. But y'all are an advisory body, and that's really the key point of the Open Meetings Act message I want to bring you today. So the policy of requiring open meetings being public is so that the public has the opportunity to be present and see how the decisions are being made. It applies to a governmental body that controls or has supervisory authority over public business or policy. And basically that means a body that has decision-making authority. So the Bingo Advisory Committee is not a governmental body under the Open Meetings Act because it does not control or supervise public business or policy. The BAC is purely advisory. It exists to advise the commission on charitable bingo matters. The commission is the governmental body. Some advisory committees in state government, and they exist, there's many of them across state government. Some of them are subject to the Meetings Act by statute, but this one is not. Our rule says that the BAC's sole duty is to advise the commission. The BAC has no executive or administrative powers or duties with respect to the operating of the Charitable Bingo Operations Division. So the good news about not being subject to the Open Meetings Act is that any number of you can get together outside of these meetings and talk about business without having to worry about whether you're violating the law. You don't have to worry about whether there's a quorum present, anything like that, or publishing advance notice that y'all are having these discussions. You don't have to worry about any of that. But we have borrowed some concepts from the Open Meetings Act that's in the Commission's BAC rule. And those include an advance public notice. The Commission requires the BAC to post notice of these meetings with an agenda a full 10 days before a BAC meeting. And that's actually longer than the statute requires for governmental agencies, which is just 7 full days. The meeting notice under our rule, it has to include the time, day, and location of the meeting, as well as the agenda items. And it says that the BAC presiding officer shall request the commission through commission staff to post the notice on the commission's website. And that's what we do. And the legal division works with the bingo division to get those notices put up on the website before these meetings. And unlike an open meeting, the BAC agenda is not published in the Texas Register. And Texas Register is a publication that comes out of the Secretary of State's office. It's the sort of the official notice of the state of Texas for all state agencies for their public meetings, for their proposed rules, their adopted rules. Commission's public meetings, they are published in the Texas Register. The notice is published in the Register. For BAC, we just do it on the Commission's website. Required to do it on the Commission's website. Now, the BAC also is required to keep minutes of its meetings, and that is something that is required under the Open Meetings Act. And this is just good. This is just good practice. You all have a record of what you all talked about and what decisions were made. The BAC, just like the Commission does, they may consider a transcript of these meetings to be the minutes. And the Commission, I think the rule says the Commission will provide a court reporter for transcript service if a court reporter is not available to provide a transcript of each BAC meeting. So we have discovered recently a service that's, artificial intelligence. It's the sort of the way our first attempt to sort of dip our toe into AI, and it's for our Commission meetings. And we found a service that works really well, and it's very inexpensive. It costs about 1/5 of what it costs to get a court reporter to transcribe these proceedings, and it takes a whole lot less time. So we've been really happy with that process. And legal, and Tyler, we normally vet those, go through those transcripts, and post those on the website as well. So those are the minutes of your meetings, which y'all come back and approve, I guess, pretty much at the next BAC meeting. Tyler may tell me some of this is being amended in the upcoming rule proposal. I'm not sure if any of this is or not. The AI service was sort of the main thing that is different from what we've done in the past. We've only been doing that for maybe 4 or 5 months, but it's worked really well, and I don't see us going back to using a court reporter problem. So the one caveat I want to mention, so that these meetings remain not subject to the Open Meetings Act, is what is referred to in several Attorney General opinions as a governmental body routinely rubber stamping recommendations that are made by an advisory committee without having a full discussion of it. We try hard to avoid this, and that's one of the reasons why the statute requires a designated bingo commissioner which we have always had, and we have one now. And that's why we also have LaDonna, the bingo director, and Tyler Vance, who is pretty much dedicated to bingo. I would say it's 98% of what he does. And other agency staff involved in your meetings and working with you as you develop recommendations. So they'll help you vet your ideas and get staff perspective on the feasibility of rule changes and other process changes, action items to recommend to the commission. And as you know, the Lottery Commission Board looks to the bingo commissioner and staff before acting on recommendations from the BAC. So we think, and we try to have substantial involvement of the commission staff and the bingo commissioner for that purpose, to avoid the accusation that the board is just rubber stamping your recommendations. To my knowledge, there's never been an issue regarding the commission's independent judgment when deciding bingo matters, but we all need to be mindful that the BAC is purely advisory and that the commission does not simply rubber stamp BAC recommendations. If we don't pay attention to these restrictions, the AG, there's a potential that the Attorney General could decide that, well, these meetings are where the real decisions are being made. So you don't want that to happen, because if that happens, all of a sudden this is going to have to be treated like an open meeting. So being an advisory committee gives you more flexibility to talk amongst yourselves without having to nobody has to know. I think that helps. I think that really makes these advisory committees a lot more productive, a lot more practical, a lot more useful for you to have that flexibility. So I just wanted you all to be mindful of that caveat. And with that, I think that's all I really wanted to tell you about today, both from the Public Information Act and the Open Meetings Act. But if y'all have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions?
Yes, sir. Real quick. Is there a standard timeline for purging the records? Let's say there are email communications that, we amongst ourselves, right now we're using a designated email to communicate, but let's say we wanted to have those records removed. And what is their retention timeline for those records that we want to, purge, transient records that we want to purge that may potentially be open records if someone were to request?
Well, the transient records, you don't have to keep them for any period of time. You can throw those away whenever. Now, for other, we have the agency has a records retention schedule. I don't have it handy right now. Tyler, do you have
It's another worth considering. Before you got here, they were talking about creating their own internal email addresses. And so that record retention
Agency.
schedule applies to all the employees. And I wonder if they got official TLC email addresses, if then you would be subject to that records retention policy.
And what we have is it is set by our IT department, and this came down from the executive director several years ago. 30 days is it. Emails only exist on our system, on our email Outlook network for 30 days, and they're purged automatically, unless you go in there and deliberately move an email into a network folder to save it for later. So our general standard for emails is 30 days. And I don't know, so you're thinking about making that
I think they were discussing it earlier, the possibility of getting TLC email addresses, because it would make it easier for us, the staff, in the event that we got an open records request, to access that without needing them to actively do it for us. But now that you mentioned that, I don't think the record retention schedule applies to their personal email addresses, but I think if you got a state one, that'd be a different story.
Well, I think we're sort of stuck with the honor system on that to a large extent. If you do, and even if you set up a TLC based email address, that doesn't prevent you from communicating with each other by text or any other way. But I really, for records, just for process purposes, it might make things a little easier to have a dedicated email address for the BAC.
Well, I think whatever is decided, I think we'll be ready to comply with. If you decide that you want us to do that, we'd be glad to do that. I do agree with Mr. Kuykendall that, there are occasions when we're out of town or can't be reached, and that may throw out the 10-day deal on the responses, and we definitely don't want to do that. So we'll do whatever staff recommends.
And then we might need to look at, just updating the records retention schedule. Might need a new category and we can decide how long to keep those records for. That's a good question. We never really thought about for the things we have to keep. There's probably an item in there for the reports that come from the BAC, I'm going to bet, but we'll take a look at the records retention schedule.
So just a quick question. If that does happen and we do get a agency email, who all would have access to that email? Would the commissioners have access to it? Would the staff have access to it? I mean,
I think that's probably something that we would talk to Commissioner Fields, maybe Commissioner Fields about, maybe get some feedback from the other commissioners. I think that's just set up. I think that's a decision that gets made sort of at some executive level about who's going to have access. And ultimately,
if we do that, we would know who would have access before then, correct?
Sure. I mean, as far as,
I mean, I'm just asking questions. Not that I care.
I have a question. Would they have to submit something for open records to require to look at that? I mean, like he's saying, who would it get to look at that? Would anybody, or would it have to be requested to look at our emails? Just a question.
From a member of the public?
Yeah.
A member of the public
Or
would
no,
have
from the staff as well.
I guess however we decide to set it up. I think our IT department, which is here with us today, I mean, I think that they can set those parameters on the account, however it gets decided.
Not that I really care. I was just curious. It really doesn't matter. I mean, it's and stuff.
But I wouldn't anticipate. I mean, because we don't have this with other, groups within department stuff within the agency. It's not like I can go in and look at, just anybody's email. So, so I think that wouldn't be an issue. I think just a matter of how it's decided to be set up.
Sorry for a weird question. It's not something I'm very familiar with, so I don't know how all that works yet. But okay, we'd be glad to do that if that's what staff decides. We'd be glad to do that.
Yeah. But there's obviously no requirement that you have to get set up on a state of Texas email system to have your advisory committee. But if it would be convenient to do so, we can.
Okay, excellent.
I think the main point is whether or not our emails would be subject to open records, which I think has already been established they would be, even if they're set up our personal emails versus an agency email. And just for efficiency and everything else involved, it may be better to have an agency email versus that. And I understand your concern about who would have access. My experience working for a state agency is that, IT can see it, just like Gmail can see Gmail. But past that is just like you pointed out.
Yeah, it's like
you can't go into somebody else's email.
We don't generally have like unless someone's been hiding this from me for 16 years. I don't think there's anybody who just goes around and just kind of routinely just peeks at people's emails.
Well, like I say, I don't mind doing it either way. It's whatever staff decides, and if the commissioners want us to do that, we'll be glad to do that. If staff wants us to do it, we'll be glad to do that as well.
Sure.
Just give us some direction and we'll get it done. Anything else, sir? Any more questions for Mr. Bob Baird? No?
Thanks. And y'all don't see me a whole bunch. I mean, some of you know me from a long time, but I'm the general counsel, and Tyler works with me, and he does a great job. Just sort of bingo is one of those things where I just think it works better if you have an attorney who's dedicated to working with the bingo division and the BAC. But I'm certainly always available to you if you ever need anything.
Well, we appreciate that, and definitely appreciate you letting Tyler be here. We have, and I've stated this before, we have in the past not had a lot of involvement from the staff, and we're certainly grateful for the involvement we have. We have now Commissioner Fields, who is in regular attendance. Almost, I don't think she's ever missed a meeting. I don't think, maybe one, yeah. And so we're definitely grateful for that. And then of course Tyler and LaDonna and the rest of the staff that's always in attendance. We greatly appreciate that, and it's certainly a pleasure to have everyone here to work together. I think we're making a lot of headway.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Trace, a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
In the upcoming rules package, there's an allowance for the committee to meet virtually. It's not prohibited currently, and we did it during COVID when we had to, and on some other occasions. But in the new rule package, it will be allowed at your discretion. And my understanding from IT is they've got a new version of Teams or Zoom. In the past, we've had some trouble having people call in, but apparently the new software they're using is very good at allowing people to call in and communicate both ways rather than just to watch. So something to consider going forward. That rule probably won't be adopted until February, but again, there's no prohibition on it currently. It's just to make it clear that you can do it if you want.
Excellent. Thank you. So that's the next item on our agenda is the rule review update.
Sure. So the rule review proposal, the rule review itself will be closed tomorrow after almost a year of being open. And of course, we've all discussed it several times, had many meetings about it. And then the rule package that's associated with the rule review with the amendments and new rules and repeals of, I believe it's 44 different rules. That will be proposed tomorrow, and if it's proposed by the commission, it will be published in the Texas Register, and then we've got a public meeting scheduled for December the 4th, which will be after presumably the next BAC meeting, the day before the commission meeting in December. So once it gets published, there'll be opportunities for you can submit written comments via email. You can show up to the public hearing on December 4th. And then, yeah, unfortunately, we can't adopt it in December. It'll be too soon. So it looks like the earliest opportunity to adopt those rules will be in February. There are a couple changes to the proposal that y'all haven't seen yet that weren't discussed that we just added at the last minute. One of them is just a general a pronoun issue. We were going to change. There's a couple references in there that say the bingo director or his designee. We were going to change that to their, but it actually turns out the proper way to do it is his or hers. And you save there for plural nouns. So every reference that's currently open to that was going to be turned into there will be turned into his or hers, and then we'll get the other ones as they pop up over time. We're not going to open up the entire rules to fix every instance of this, but as they come up, we'll change them. The other one, more substantive, is the rules currently exempt lotteria cards and braille cards from being bingo equipment, which means they don't need to be manufactured by a licensed manufacturer, they don't need to be approved by the commission, and they don't need to be distributed by a licensed distributor. I looked at the law, and I don't know, that exemption's been in there for at least 25 years, and it's just, it cannot be supported legally. Those things are clearly bingo equipment. They're used in the game of bingo, so they need to be approved by the commission. They need to be manufactured by a licensed manufacturer, sold by a licensed distributor. We understand there's, I think, 3 or 4 lotteria cards that are currently approved, but it's only the player side. There isn't a caller side set of lotteria. So there's an opportunity there for the manufacturers to create some approved lotteria caller side of the game. And as far as we know, there are no braille cards approved at all. So again, there's just no legal justification for these exemptions. They're both clearly bingo equipment. They need to be approved. We understand that might cause some disruptions. I don't know how often lotteria comes up once in a while. I've never heard anything about braille cards, but certainly if once this rule gets removed, and I would say even currently the rule says that a braille card is exempt. But I think it's just contrary to the letter of the law. So I would encourage everyone to stop allowing those. The current rule says that a player can bring their own braille card in and play. So I would encourage everyone to stop doing that while this rule is pending. But assuming everything goes through, then in February, those 2 rules will be changed to clearly state that lottery and braille cards are bingo equipment and must be approved by the commission. So hopefully the manufacturers will step up and provide those to the market as soon as possible.
Excellent.
And other than that, everything's just as we've discussed, as the BAC approved at the last meeting. And again, all that'll be published and available for comment for quite a while. And then we've got the public hearing. So there's still plenty of opportunity to look at those rules.
Do we, as the BAC, need to re-vote on that?
I suppose you could, yeah, because the commission's going to ask you tomorrow. I know you told them at the last meeting that BAC's approves closing the rule review process and moving forward with the proposals, but I think it would help now that there are slight changes to those rules.
And those are the only two, just the
Yes.
pronoun issue and then the lottery
Lottery and braille.
lottery.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any, I mean, can we do that now
I think, yeah.
without us have seen it? I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
I've read it. I got the email. I read it. I didn't see any issues. Anybody got any issues on that? I'm going to refer to our one single attorney from the public today, Miss Kim Kipling. Have you read that or had an opportunity to look at it? Your microphone's.
This is on. Good morning. For the record, my name is Kimberly Kipling. I'm an attorney here in Austin, Texas. I am a member of the Rule Review Subcommittee. I did review the latest iteration. I don't really have any comments. I think it's clear that the definition of bingo equipment under the Bingo Enabling Act is so broad that it would include the Loteria and the Braille cards. Just going back in time, I don't really remember the Loteria. I think these rules were promulgated in 2005. Admittedly, I was the general counsel at that time, and there was a bingo director. And what I do remember historically was more of an ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act issue on the Braille cards. And then in talking with the former bingo director, I think it had to do with the fact that if we was not exempted at that time, then it would be considered to be bingo equipment and have to be manufactured by a licensed bingo manufacturer and distributed by a licensed bingo distributor. Now, having said all that, I think the statute is pretty clear, and taking a look at it myself very recently. And I think if there was a desire to try to exempt Loteria, which is a common game that you can find in like a Walmart, then I think that would require a legislative change to go forward with what's happening with the rule review and the proposed rules. I think really what's happening is the need to sync the rules up with the existing language with the Bingo Enabling Act. And we've seen that on some other issues that we've talked about regarding distributors not being able to take back product because of that statute. Probably more than you wanted to know. Happy to answer any questions.
So you don't foresee any issues with these two?
No, I think the only issue that I see is notification. I don't know for the halls that you have, I don't know how many visually impaired players you have that are using Braille cards. And I don't know how frequently the game of Loteria is actually being played in bingo halls. So if there's a desire, then probably need to get some licensed bingo manufacturers to help provide those products.
It's already being produced, the Loteria paper.
Okay.
Yeah, has that been approved? Loteria paper?
I think there are 3 or 4 approved.
So I've been looking into it more closely in the last several days. It looks to me like the Loteria cards that are approved are the player cards, as opposed to, when I played with Grandma Fina years and years ago, there was also a deck for calling out the symbols. Anyway, so the player cards, but the player cards that I have seen also have, 5 columns, and they say BINGO at the top, and they've got a number in each of the little squares. So basically it's bingo. It's a bingo card. And they're using the ball blower to call numbers. So it's basically, it's bingo. It's Lotteria themed bingo. It's not, again, the Lotteria that I played with.
So
my
that doesn't
friend.
have to be resubmitted after February.
Those, I
We're
think,
just-
those are fine. What we have
Okay.
seen is actually bingo paper. I don't know if anybody is playing that true Lotteria game that I
No.
played with Grandma Fina.
No, it's the actual, because it does have the 90, the numbers on it.
Yes.
It's similar, I guess, to the animal paper and the triple X.
Yes.
bingo papers.
Mhm.
Just a different theme.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like the only issue may be if you have a visually impaired player who's using their own Braille card now, they won't be able to. But just anecdotally, it sounds like that's not really occurring. Any other questions?
No, thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
So we should probably, okay, I'll go ahead and make the motion that the BAC approves the 2 new updated rules being submitted for public comment.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, Tyler, is that all you have for the rule review?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Sunset update, item number 7. Tyler, you want to, or is there anything you have on your end, Madonna?
What I can tell you is that the sunset decisions from, now I've forgotten the date, September, the September hearing, are online. If you have not seen them, I don't have it up on the screen, but I can certainly help you offline to find it if you haven't found it. And that the staff is busy working on those management recommendations that were adopted. Regarding bingo, most of those recommendations were adopted as they were in the staff report, except for the elimination of manufacturer distributor licenses was not adopted. On grandfathered lessors, they did adopt a recommendation to allow to limit grandfathered lessors to 10 years on administrative hold, 10 years consecutive. Right now it's unlimited. So 10 years consecutive on administrative hold. I think that's it for bingo.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Any questions on the sunset update? Any public comment? Okay, we will move on to old business. Any public comment on old business? If not, we'll move on to new business. Any public comment on new business? I do have one item. Oh, yes, ma'am. Go
I
ahead.
have just one item. I don't know that it's new business, but I would like to introduce Brent Rougeau, who's at the back of the room. Hi, Brent. He is our new BAC liaison. He came on about a little over a month ago. So you will start seeing communications from a new name. He has been working very closely with Marie on communications for this meeting. And then for the next meeting, which is just about 6 weeks away, you'll be seeing communications from him. And Marie will continue working with him and training. But I know he's very excited about it, and I know I'm very excited about it.
Pleasure to have you with us. The only thing I have under new business is since we have a full board and we have all the members here, I would like to quickly go through the Bingo Advisory Committee 2025 annual work plan. There's a couple things on here that we need to identify and maybe set up a committee for. Number 1 is identify potential rule or procedural changes that may help organizations address challenges related to conducting charitable bingo. Any potential recommendations on changes to how bingo games are played shall be clearly authorized by Texas law. Number 2, monitor legislative activity that may impact charitable bingo, including issues related to recommendations and proposals by the Sunset Advisory Commission. Number 3, provide feedback and comments to CBOD staff and commissioners on changes to administrative rules in Chapter 402 and additional amendments, including making recommendations in the 2024 Charitable Bingo Rules Review. A final recommendation to the Texas Lottery Commission regarding adoption and whether any bingo advisory opinions should be incorporated into the rules. Number 4, work with CBOD staff to identify ways to increase online filing of quarterly reports and payments using the bingo service portal. Tyler, LaDonna, do you think we need to, I know we've visited that in the past and we've helped a little bit with that, getting the word out through the various trade organizations in bingo. Do you think we need to set a committee on that to help out with that so we can, I know y'all are really wanting to go forward on paperless.
So even some of our rules are going to help us with that. I wanted to talk to our new presiding officer after this meeting to start, talk about how we might set up a committee to talk about, especially industry input for improvements to the BSP. We will be looking at, finishing up a conversion and improvements to it, bingo service portal. So we'll need some input from those folks that use it on how we can make it easier and more attractive.
Okay. Well, we'll get together then and sort that out, and then we can do that at the next meeting, then maybe set up a committee for that. All right. Number 5, review components of the agency's charitable bingo website and the BSP and provide recommendations for improvements. We had done this in the past. I know that the staff was working on some website stuff, so we put that off a little bit. But I feel like we should probably have a committee for that. And I think there's somebody that's pretty well qualified to do that and has a pretty good knowledge of that. So I'd like to, at this time, ask Dr. Penny if he would lead up that committee and choose your members, whoever wants to be on that committee, to go through that. Dr. Penny?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love to take it over. I think there's a lot of information just in terms of accessibility and what the public sees on the website. We want them to be able to get online, find information out without necessarily having to search for it. And then just like I said, we want to make the experience, we want to make it enjoyable for the person going to the website, whether it's these hearings. We want them to be able to see it in broad view on the front page. We want to make the public more receptive to what we're doing and the great work that Texas Lotto is doing and what we're providing them in terms of feedback. So I'd love to get with whoever's interested in working.
I think Mr. Kuykendall had some really good recommendations earlier on some of this stuff too. If you'd like to do that.
Glad to work with him on that. I do have a lot more questions than answers at this point, but I think it's part of the process, right?
Yes, and we definitely appreciate that. And then anyone else who wants to get on that committee to help with the website, please do so. Let Dr. Penny know. And that way we can get that on the next agenda. That is one of the big things I know that LaDonna and Tyler had talked about us in the past. Number 6, provide reports at each commission meeting that include status updates of the BAC's activities, industry accomplishments, challenges, or concerns. And number 7, develop the required BAC annual report to the commission on the state of charitable bingo industry and submit to the commission and to the charitable bingo director by July 15th, 2025. So that is the fiscal year 2025 annual work plan that is given to us by the commissioners every year. They get to do that, so we definitely appreciate that from them. We've got a heavy workload this year, so just wanted to get that read into the record. So we'll be making a committee appointment at the next meeting for item number 4. That being said, is there any other new business or any discussion that anybody would like to have? I would like to thank our new members for being here in person today. Thank y'all very much. It's been a pleasure meeting y'all. We like for you to be in person, but if you can't be in person, we definitely have the virtual option, which is good. So there's always that avenue to attend the meetings. As we go forward in the year, there will be more and more workload. We do have the Sunset Commission that's going to be meeting. We also have a legislative session coming up in January. Is it the 15th that it starts? Not sure. Okay. I know it's early January, so there will be a lot of stuff for the BAC to be doing and monitoring to keep the commissioners informed. We do have Commissioner Fields here. Commissioner Fields, is there anything you want to add? No? Thank you. We appreciate it. Anyone else? LaDonna Tyler?
January 14th.
14th. Okay. All right. All right. Let's move on to item number 10, set the date for the next meeting. I think we already have that as December 4th, correct?
Yes, so the next meeting of the BAC will be 10 o'clock in the morning in this room on December 4th. For your information, the public comment hearing will be at 1 o'clock, same day. And then, of course, the commission meeting the next day on December 5th at 10.
Excellent. All right, so we're all set with that. We only have one more thing on our agenda today, is item 11 is adjournment. So we will call this meeting of the BAC adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.